Sure. My name is Louis Diegas. I'm the district manager here at the Charles Soil Conservation District, and I've been here a few years. And I'll pass it on to Jerry here.
I'm Jerry Spence. I'm an MDA conservation planner at the district. I've been here since 2007, so 15 years, going on 16. So I work with farmers to help them develop conservation plans, to implement best management practices. That's what I do.
A little bit of a complicated network of different agencies working together. We have district personnel here and Maryland Department of Agriculture personnel and the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service personnel that we work with to plan out these practices and in the long run implement these practices. And for starters, we have a planner that would go out and a typical farm, and specifically here, Jerry Spence was the individual who assessed our land here and wanted to determine what it was that we needed to put in as far as the applicable best management practices. So with that, I guess
So we were fortunate here when the district bought the property back in 2017 time period. There were already many practices installed. So the prior owner had installed forest buffers along wetlands and streams. And so those were already intact when we purchased the property. So we continue to maintain those areas. We did find resource concerns, and the primary one was a gully erosion issue in one of our larger fields. So we addressed that a few years ago by installing a grass waterway. Also, the soils here are somewhat poor, probably poorer than average for the county. So we continue to recommend or require our tenant who farms it to apply cover crops in the fall to help stabilize the soil, but also to improve the soil long term. We do have a very basic crop rotation, so those cover crops play an important role in that. So we don't have the same crop planted over and over again. We have crops planted in our rotation. Primarily annual hay crops. We've had sorghum Sudan grass, we've had pearl millet, we've had the cover crops. So we do have a rotation here. One of our challenges is we have extremely high deer pressure. So if we were to plant certain crops, they would be destroyed by the deer, so we can't plant soybeans here effectively. So we've installed the grass waterway. We've installed stabilization on that waterway and mulching to establish it. We've implemented cover crops and crop rotations, nutrient management, and no-till farming. So all of our crops that we do plant in the field are planted no-till method with a planter or a drill that is completely no-till. So our soil hasn't been tilled for at least 6 years now, and we're hoping to continue that into the future. So we're out here in the field now, looking at rye cover crop that was planted back around the 10th of October. So you see the grass crop here is rye, and the rye is planted here to capture excess nutrients left behind from the sorghum Sudan grass hay crop. You can see part of that here still standing. It was harvested for hay, for livestock feed, and the leftover nitrogen is being scavenged by the rye cover crop. So one reason we use cover crops here is to try to improve the soil health, not only the nutrient capture, but also improve soil structure, because the roots of the plants, growing plants, always help improve soil structure and soil aggregation. So not only does the cover crop scavenge nutrients, it also helps improve soil structure. So all of the history here of 20 years of history of tobacco production in Southern Maryland, and also there was some mining on this site at one time, so the soil has been degraded quite a bit. So we're trying to use these cover crops to not only capture nutrients, but also to improve soil structure and organic matter. So one of the problems we have here is compaction. So when we go into a field and look at soils, we often find there's compacted soils, and there's several problems that cause this. The biggest one is infiltration. If you can't infiltrate the water, you have runoff. That runoff can cause erosion somewhere else. But also, the water runs off the soil, it's not going into the soil to be utilized by plants. So you reduce the available water for plants to grow. So reducing compaction is one of the most important things you can do on a farm. Using cover crops and no-till planting methods are one of the best ways to alleviate that over time. So we're going to use a pin flag here, push into the soil. The soil's fairly moist. We had almost an inch of rain a few days ago. We push in, and I have to give a fair amount of pressure for it to go through. I'm encountering resistance very near the surface, probably at about 3 inches. I'm getting quite a bit of resistance. And then it's soft again. So even though we've been using complete no-till and cover crops now for 6 years here, we still have a compacted layer at about 3 to 6 inches. It's probably from the previous farmer who would have been disking the soil, working up the top few inches, but then compacting the next 3 or 4 inches below it. So over time, cover crops and no-till farming will alleviate that compaction. We'll have better water infiltration, rainfall infiltration to the soil. So we'll have better plant growth, and finally, at the end of that, we'll have better organic matter in the soil over time. So the cover crops in particular scavenge nutrients. So if this nutrient isn't scavenged, it will be lost to the environment. And much of that nitrogen will end up being leached out through the soil profile. And then, 10 years from now, somewhere here, it's a kayak swamp downslope, it'll seep out from a spring and into the system. It causes nutrient loading downstream. So the cover crops are important because they hold that nutrient over winter when other plants aren't growing. They hold it in the living plant. And then when that cover crop decomposes in the spring and summer, some of that nutrient release can be used by the next cash crop that's grown.